Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Krista Michaels. Krista, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm
How
super,
are you?
super excited to have you.
So glad to be here.
Yeah, no, before we actually get started here, Krista, before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Krista is a writer-director of such titles as Mantid and One Monday. Being a transgender filmmaker and cinematographer based out of Denver, Colorado. She co-founder and CEO of Retro Raptor LLC and made her short film directorial debut with One Monday after years of being in the entertainment industry. Now, a lot to unpack here. Being from Denver, Colorado, being a transgender filmmaker and cinematographer, how long has it been since you became yourself?
Oh, I think began transition at the end of 2011. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's
It's
been over a decade now.
Well, the thing for me is like, and I've tried to say this to as many people as I possibly can that are willing to listen at least. If we're lucky, we have 100 years on this planet. And in that short amount of time, there's no point in hiding who you are or trying to be someone that you're not. So the fact that you came to terms with who you are, you realized who you are, and you're letting that show, I'm incredibly proud of you. And I'm glad that you're taking that to the entertainment industry as well. I'm glad that it's something that you are so proud of. And you and your partner do Retro Raptor LLC, correct?
That's correct. Yes, and she's
And
also transgender. So
that's amazing because you guys were able to find each other in this whole world of people and be in love and do this business together. And what can you tell us a little bit about Retro Raptor LLC?
well, it's primarily going to be horror related. So far, we've done a couple of shorts, as you mentioned, both horror. Um, we are interested in animation and television as well. So we have a couple of things that we're working on. Really excited
Right.
for it.
Well, and the good thing about that is you are working on things that are coming up here in the future. And if you guys want to be a part of this and be able to check this out, I have all of Krista's social media links down here in the description. So make sure you're following her on social media so you can stay up to date with everything that she has coming up for us in the future. So spoiler free a little bit. What can you tell us a little bit about One Monday?
Okay. So I was originally working on a project to be my first directorial effort called Match Needle, and then COVID hit, and I got kind of down because lockdown happened and we were trapped inside, and I just decided to make a short film inside of our apartment, and so it's sort of a mental health awareness piece, and because I had been reading a lot of articles about, people who were not doing so well mentally during the pandemic. And yeah, it's really for them. And it's something I care a lot about.
Yeah. Mental
So,
health is something very, very serious that, my DMs are always open, guys. So if there's ever anything you're struggling with, you need a friend. Sometimes you don't want to talk to the people closest to you because you don't want to be judged. I'm an ear that can listen. So there's nothing more important than your mental health. So where can people watch One Monday?
both of my shorts right now are streaming on Trauma Now.
Okay.
So
And what an amazing place to be, Trauma, what amazing, they helped to start horror for me for sure. So,
yeah.
I do have those links down in the description as well. So One Monday as well as Mantid. What can you tell us a little bit about that being spoiler free as well?
So Mantid coming out of the pandemic was really my first much larger piece. It's still a short film, but I had been into, and I still am, really into ufology for a long time. It's one of my big passions, and I noticed that a lot of films were in the past and at present were kind of doing, grays, and the public, even people who aren't into the subject, are pretty aware of the gray alien archetype. And one that I was always fascinated with were mantid beings or mantis beings, which people do claim to have experiences with. And I always thought that was really fascinating because when I was a kid growing up in Southern Virginia, there was like this giant bush that our mailbox was in at the end of the driveway. And a bunch of praying mantises lived there. And I was always so fascinated with them because they just seemed, I don't want to say more intelligent than other insects, or, you know, I don't know how to describe it. They don't really seem like anything else that I've ever interacted with on the planet, to be honest.
Well, they're definitely more badass than any other insect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's especially post mating, I would say, but
Yeah. I'm just glad that I'm not a male praying mantis because I like my head and my face. So another thing about, you have all these amazing things that are coming up, in the future. And I know that it's hard to talk about these things because of NDAs and things like that. But can you tell me anything that you have coming up in the future, coming up down the pipeline that people can be excited about?
well, I have my first feature that I'm currently in the writing process on, almost done. And I have a couple of awesome producers attached. I can't say too much about it right now, but I will say that it is within the horror genre. It's an exploitation piece and a revenge film. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Very, very excited to see. Now, will you be in front of the camera for this one or strictly director, writer behind the camera?
I may make a cameo in the film, but I'm mostly going to be behind the camera.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait. Like I said, guys, if you want to stay up to date on this, all those links are in the description. So make sure you're following Krista to stay up to date on everything that she has coming up. Now, in order for you to direct horror and be a part of the horror world, Krista, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Krista, the first horror movie that you watched was?
Uh, if memory serves correctly, it was Child's Play 2. It's the time in my life that the earliest I remember being super frightened for a long period of time.
Mhm. And still to this day, my favorite horror franchise of all time is Child's Play.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's one of the
Very cool.
film franchises that I feel like I mean, like, I guess you could say Seed of Chucky is like the weakest link, but that's still a fantastic film. I love Seed of
Right.
Chucky. There's
Chucky
just,
was definitely ahead of its time, I would say.
yes, the representation could have been done a little bit better, but at least they were trying to get that representation out there. I think the representation they did much better in the Chucky TV series, but
Oh,
at
yes.
least they were
Yeah.
making that attempt. So do you remember about how old you were, Krista, the first time that you had seen Child's Play 2?
Yes, I think the thing that scared me the most was that I was about the same age as Andy at the time. And so I really connected with his struggles and just looking around every corner. I mean, I used to check under my bed and the closet before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
It just really messed me up for a long time.
Oh, sure. And when
Yeah.
you're at a very young age and you're watching a peer go through something, someone that's around the same age as you, whether I've
Oh,
talked to
yeah.
people whose first movie was Poltergeist, and you're watching Carol Ann go through these things. People that talk about Pet Cemetery, watching Gage go through these things, and something like this, watching Andy go through these things. When you're watching a peer go through these, I feel like it affects you a little bit more because you can relate a little bit better to the situation that's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's
So
funny you mentioned Pet Cemetery because Zelda used to freak me out like so much too. But
Zelda is the thing that nightmares are made of.
yes.
So
Wow.
you're talking about being freaked out and being scared. Do you remember the scene from Child's Play 2 that affected you the most?
Just about every scene, every frame of that film freaked me out. But because it was so well done with the practical effects and the puppetry and animatronics, it was amazing. But in particular, the scene at the end where Andy and Kyle are running from Chucky in the giant factory really freaked me out and stuck with me because I don't want to say most, but a lot of horror films are set in claustrophobic spaces or at nighttime. And this was brightly lit in a giant factory. And there were many dolls. I mean, who knows what could have happened, but there was one in particular that was alive somewhere. And just the suspense of not knowing where Chucky was.
Right.
And especially as a kid that age, hearing a doll curse like that and saying some of the things, like the sort of tone that he had was really vicious, and for anyone watching, you have to remember this was before, you know, Bride of Chucky came out, where a lot of the comedy started. And I know these older movies were funny in certain scenes too, but yeah, I was really terrified of it. So it wasn't too funny to me back then.
Oh, the original Chucky trilogy, you know, 1, 2, and 3. I feel like those were all horror movies first, with splashes of comedy added in.
Right.
I hear people say Child's Play 3 had a lot of comedy. Yeah, it did, but it's still, there was a lot of horrific moments in Child's Play 3 as well. And like you're talking about with Child's Play 2, I feel like Chucky started to get his one-liners here. You know, like you get the
How's it hanging, Phil?
you know,
Oh,
which was
that's one of my favorite scenes.
yeah, you get, and then you also have, you know, you've been naughty, Mrs. Kettlewell, which
Yeah,
is
with the
another
ruler.
one of those, yeah, that you're just like, okay. But overall, he's still a terrifying doll in these films. And while he is terrifying, we did say there is moments of levity. So do you remember, Krista, what your favorite moment from Child's Play 2 is?
I will say that, like, maybe some of the things that were unintentionally funny, that make me laugh today also kind of made me laugh back then. For instance, when you would see Chucky under the school bus with his like little legs kicking, I love that so much.
Yeah. And one thing I do appreciate about this movie is you have real bonding between adopted brother and sister with Kyle and Andy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Kyle letting Andy smoke a cigarette for the first time when they're downstairs. And, you know, those are relationships that we don't really get throughout a lot of cinema. And to see these two really trying to bond and be together, I feel is a very special moment throughout the film. And Child's Play, obviously a big franchise now, lots of movies in the franchise. And like I said, my favorite horror franchise of all time.
Nice.
But with it being your first horror movie, I always ask, since it is a part of the franchise, which is your favorite film in the Child's Play franchise?
Part two, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. What
And
about you?
no, you can't go wrong with part two. I've always been a huge fan of part three. I don't know what it is,
Okay.
maybe because like at that age, that's the one that I watched the most. You know,
I will say that part three is the most underrated, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
I get so many people that hate part three. They're like, "Oh, it's in a army base or military school," and I'm like, "Dude, the movie's great. They just
Oh, I,
did,
I love that.
yeah, they just did Chucky chasing a little boy for 2 straight movies. You wanted to see that again?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
love that
glad
guy
they
in the
tried
trash
something different."
compactor is like so great.
I've always said that the two saddest deaths of any Child's Play movie happened in Child's Play 3. And you just mentioned one of them when you got the guy in the trash compactor. Like he's just you know, he's just trying to help. Like he thinks there's a kid stuck in there and he's trying to crawl his way out to help. And then you get Whitehurst jumping on the grenade to try to save all
Oh
these
my
people
God,
that have been
yes.
shitty to him the whole time. Like two
It's
of the
so
saddest
sad.
deaths in the whole franchise. And the
Such a
movie's just
great character.
yeah, yeah. So we talked about Child's Play 2. You know, that's you know your first horror movie, and we know that that's your favorite in the franchise. And a question I've been asking people is, would you like to see your first horror movie remade today? Now, with yours being a sequel, and we did just get Child's Play 2019, which is a remake of the first one. So I'll ask this: did you see Child's Play 2019? And if so, what are your thoughts on that film?
Okay, so I have to break that one down for a second. I did see it, and actually I absolutely loved it. Um, it was different. I think for a lot of people, the off-putting part of the just the entire production was that it was while the original franchise was still ongoing, and it was a bit disrespectful to Don Mancini and everybody. And I thought, and I still think that, and but I do own the movie on Blu-ray. I have the entire franchise. I love all of them. I thought it made creative new choices. It didn't try to redo um, what's already been done. So I enjoyed that.
I am 150% on your team. And it's funny because people that know me know I boycotted this movie. I 100% refused to watch it. It's not because I'm anti-remake or anything like that, or, oh, it's your favorite franchise, so you don't want to see it redone. It's nothing like that. It was strictly with my love for Don Mancini and the respect I had for Don Mancini. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to watch it. My wife took my son to see it, and she was like, baby, you have to watch it. And she pointed out something that I said on the podcast before. I think the movie would have been more successful. And I think a lot more of the Chucky purists would have been much more on board if they had just called this movie Buddy from the world of Child's Play. So then they could have still gotten that Child's Play reference in there. You could have even named the doll something else, and then you could have got, because that studio didn't own the rights to Child's Play 2. So then you could have gotten Buddy Bear. You could have continued it with the Buddy Bear from the end, which I think would have been fucking awesome. I still want the Buddy Bear movie, guys.
Okay. Definitely. I urge anyone to check it out with an open mind, even if you're a huge fan of the original franchise and cast and crew. Because I do think it has new things to offer, and Mark Hamill is great. The music is fantastic. You were speaking of remakes, and I would say that I don't, if I were to do anything in the franchise or want to see something, I've always wanted to, like, it's been my dream to do something within the franchise, and I've always, sort of thought that I would do like a prequel, like a gritty 70s taxi driver-ish type film with, a younger Brad Dourif character.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. Like, just the Strangler himself, and see how he became who he. That would be amazing.
right, yeah,
I would
yeah.
absolutely.
The Lakeshore Strangler. So
Yeah, you could even just call it Charles Lee Ray. Like, you could just go that route with it. Like,
exactly.
I'm 100% with you. I would love to see that. And there's so many things with Child's Play that you were just talking about, how they took it and made it their own. And I've said repeatedly, I love a remake. And whenever I talk about my favorite remakes, I talk about The Thing, I talk about Child's Play 2019, and I talk about Evil Dead 2013, because they took the original idea of the source material and they completely molded it and made it their own. We didn't see a bunch of regurgitated scenes. We didn't hear a bunch of regurgitated lines that were just done from practical to CGI.
Right.
That's the perfect way to do a remake. Take the bones, put your own skin over top of it. And I agree with you. I've had to defend, and I'll admit the doll looks fucking stupid. Okay, whatever. But I love Child's Play 2019.
Design.
Huh?
It's not the greatest design. I don't
Right. But it's like you said, everything you said, I agree with. The music, the "You Are My Buddy" song was stuck in my head for like
I
years
love
after
that,
watching
yeah.
that movie. So we talked about your first horror movie. Now, usually my buddy Ghostface is with me, and he usually asks a question here. But Ghostface, they just announced Scream 7, so he's training, he's getting his workouts in. So I'll just ask for him. What is your favorite scary movie, Krista?
That would be the J horror film Ju-On.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, that's my favorite. I'm obsessed with that franchise. So
were you a fan of the American remakes of The Ring?
The Ring. Oh yeah.
I am thinking right. Ju-On is The Ring, right?
Ju-On is The Grudge.
The Grudge. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I always mix those up. It's Ringu and Ju-On. Okay, my apologies, everybody.
No.
I'm not a real horror fan, apparently. Are you a fan of the American versions of The Grudge?
I am. Yes, it's
Okay.
especially because the original director Shimizu came back and did the first two, due to Sam Raimi making it happen. So yeah, I love him and Ghost House Pictures for that. So
Yeah, and it's amazing because obviously, like you said, with Sam Raimi, you get Ted Raimi in The Grudge, and the minute I saw Ted Raimi in The Grudge, I was like, "Ooh, he's fucked. This never works out well for this guy." But if you guys haven't, check out the J horror. All J horror is amazing. Like I said, whether it is Ringu, Ju-On, The Grudge. I'm sorry I mixed those two up. I feel like a jackass. But they are doing an American remake of Last Train to Busan. They're calling it The Last Train to New York. Have you seen Train to Busan?
I have. I loved it. So good.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Train to New York, or it's Last Train to New York.
Okay.
A lot
I
of
haven't heard too much about that. I've heard the rumors about that, but yeah.
My thing is, like, if Last Train to New York can even turn some people on to Train to Busan, let's do it. Let's try to get some more people to go watch this because they're amazing films that we're missing out on. And I would have never heard of Ju-on. I would have never heard of Ringu if it wasn't for The Ring and the Grudge. So there's so many different ways that you can transform and get these things out here. So I do want to say thank you, Krista, for coming to join me. Learning all these new things about you and learning who you are as a horror fan, that means a lot to me. So before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. Now, we're going to bounce back to Child's Play 2. And what we're going to do here, Krista, is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking Child's Play 2 on acting, direction, score, nothing like that. What we're doing here is strictly ranking Child's Play 2 on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle.
Okay.
Krista, what would your ranking of Child's Play 2 be?
Solid 5.
Yeah.
It really affected me so much that, like, when I was a kid, my dad ran his magazine route, and on the weekends he would take my brother and I to this big warehouse, and there were magazines stacked really high, and it just reminded me of the final factory scene, and I was so terrified to go there. Like,
that's so amazing
now, but
and you even have the one guy in the movie that is a magazine deliver or a newspaper driver, and almost gets hit by Kyle.
Crazy bitch.
That's one of
So
my
good.
favorite. There's that little moment in the film. So
I love it.
I did say it at the top, guys, but we are at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, make sure that you are following Krista on all her social media links. They're right down here in the description. I also have the links to her short films. So make sure you're checking those out and being ready for the things that she has coming up for us in the future. So, Krista, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, if you haven't already, make sure you're following Sledgehammer Horror and make sure you like and subscribe this video as well. It helps the channel more than you know, and all our social media links are down in the description. And keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.